Beneath the cobblestones and crowded piazzas of modern Rome lies a secret world, one that most visitors walk right over without ever realizing it. Picture this: you're strolling past the Colosseum, gelato in hand, surrounded by the hum of scooters and the laughter of tourists. But just a few meters below, hidden in the darkness, are entire streets, homes, and temples from a time when emperors ruled and gladiators fought. These aren't just ruins, they're perfectly preserved snapshots of daily life, frozen in time under layers of earth and forgotten history. How did these ancient cities end up buried beneath one of the world's most famous metropolises? And what stories do they tell about the people who lived there centuries ago? Rome isn't just a city, it's a living archaeological puzzle, built and rebuilt over thousands of years like a grand, sprawling layer cake of civilizations. Every time a new subway line is dug or a basement is excavated, workers stumble upon fragments of the past, mosaics peeking through the dirt, walls painted with frescoes still vibrant after centuries, even entire neighborhoods swallowed by time. Some of these buried cities were lost to natural disasters like floods or earthquakes. Others were deliberately buried, their ruins used as foundations for new buildings as Rome grew upward and outward. But each layer holds clues to how people lived, worshipped, and even celebrated in the heart of an empire that shaped the modern world. This isn't just a story about stones and artifacts, it's about the lives that once filled these spaces. Imagine walking through a marketplace where vendors sold spices from distant lands, or standing in a temple where citizens prayed to gods whose names have faded from memory. These underground cities are more than archaeological curiosities. They're portals to another time waiting to be explored. So join us as we peel back the layers of Rome's hidden history, uncovering the mysteries of the forgotten cities beneath its streets. From the engineering marvels that preserved them to the startling discoveries still being made today, this journey will change the way you see the eternal city and the ancient world forever. The story of Rome's hidden underground layers begins not with their burial, but with their creation, a tale of ambition, resilience, and the unstoppable march of time. At its height, ancient Rome was a metropolis of over 1 million people, a dazzling urban center where marble temples gleamed beside crowded apartment blocks, and aqueducts brought fresh water from distant mountains. But this grandeur didn't appear overnight. For centuries, Rome expanded through a cycle of conquest, construction, and calamity, each phase leaving its mark beneath the streets. Take the Great Fire of 64, for example, when flames raced through the city's wooden tenements for 6 devastating days. Emperor Nero famously rebuilt Rome wider and taller, with stone buildings and broad avenues, but beneath those new foundations lay the charred remnants of entire neighborhoods. Later emperors repeated this pattern after earthquakes or barbarian invasions, each reconstruction adding another stratum to the city's geological record. Even ordinary citizens contributed to the process. When floods from the Tiber River left homes knee-deep in mud, many simply filled in the lower floors and built upward rather than clear the debris. Over generations, ground levels rose dramatically. What was once a first-floor shop became a basement, then a sealed chamber forgotten beneath newer buildings. The most fascinating part, many of these buried structures weren't abandoned in ruin but were carefully incorporated into new projects. Builders repurposed old walls as foundations, turning ancient temples into support beams for medieval churches. The Basilica of San Clemente offers a perfect example. Descend beneath its 12th century nave, and you'll find a 4th century church. Go deeper still, and there's a 1st century apartment building with a shrine to the Persian god Mithras. This wasn't careless burial, it was pragmatic urban recycling, layer upon layer of history pressed together like pages in a book. Natural forces played their part too. Centuries of wind-blown dust from nearby farms, ash from countless cooking fires, and silt from regular floods slowly raised the city's elevation. In some areas, the ground level climbed nearly 20 feet between ancient times and the Middle Ages. That's why today, archaeologists often find well-preserved Roman buildings with intact frescoes and mosaics. They were sealed away from air and light, protected by the very debris that buried them. Understanding this rhythm of destruction and renewal solves part of the mystery. Rome's underground cities aren't just accidental time capsules, but the direct result of a metropolis that refused to die. Each collapse, each invasion, each disaster became an opportunity to rebuild not from scratch, but from the bones of what came before. The Eternal City earned its nickname not through permanence, but through endless reinvention, with every generation leaving its mark both above and below the surface. Modern archaeology acts like a time machine, peeling back Rome's layers without disturbing the delicate balance between past and present. Gone are the days when uncovering history meant wielding shovels and risking damage to fragile ruins. Today, tools like ground-penetrating radar send pulses through the earth, painting vivid pictures of buried walls and chambers like an X-ray for the soil. Laser scanners create millimeter-perfect 3D models of underground spaces, allowing researchers to walk through ancient rooms without ever lifting a trowel. These methods reveal hidden details: the groove where a door once swung, the soot marks from an oil lamp last extinguished 2,000 years ago, breathing life into spaces long sealed by time. The Basilica of San Clemente stands as a testament to archaeology's power to connect eras. Descending through its levels feels like flipping through a history book written in brick and mortar. At street level, visitors admire an ornate medieval church completed in the 12th century. But beneath those marble floors lies an earlier 4th century basilica, its faded frescoes depicting early Christian martyrs. Deeper still, archaeologists uncovered a 1st century Roman apartment building with a surprising twist, a secret temple to the god Mithras, complete with an underground chamber where initiates once shared ritual meals. This single site encapsulates nearly 1,000 years of religious evolution, from pagan mysteries to medieval Christianity, all preserved in stunning detail. What makes these discoveries truly remarkable isn't just their preservation, but what they reveal about ordinary lives. The layer of ash beneath a bakery's oven tells us what fuel they used. Graffiti scrawled on tavern walls preserves jokes and complaints that feel startlingly modern. Drainage systems show how Romans solved flooding problems, while the arrangement of shops and homes reveals how social classes mixed in tight urban spaces. Each artifact acts like a pixel in a larger picture. A broken amphora here, a child's toy there, until suddenly we're not just studying history, but glimpsing the rhythm of daily existence in an ancient metropolis. Perhaps most exciting is how technology helps solve long-standing mysteries. When researchers scanned beneath Trajan's Forum with thermal imaging, they detected anomalies suggesting hidden chambers possibly containing lost libraries or imperial archives. In the Catacombs of Domitilla, multispectral imaging recently revealed previously invisible paintings beneath layers of grime, their colors miraculously intact after centuries in darkness. These aren't just academic exercises, they're rewrites of history books, challenging assumptions about how Romans lived, worshipped, and governed. The true magic happens when science meets storytelling. A single oyster shell found in an underground tavern isn't just trash, it's proof that Romans enjoyed seafood feasts delivered from distant coasts, A worn step in a buried staircase shows where generations of feet turned a sharp corner. Archaeology transforms anonymous ruins into narratives, letting us hear echoes of laughter in empty banquet halls and sense the devotion in abandoned temples. As new technologies emerge, who knows what other secrets still lie waiting beneath Rome's bustling streets, ready to add fresh chapters to humanity's oldest ongoing story. To truly grasp the wonder of the Basilica of San Clement, you have to think of it not as a single building, but as a living timeline, one you can literally walk through, layer by layer. Start at street level, where the sunlight filters through golden mosaics in a stunning 12th century church, its apse glittering with scenes of Christ triumphant. But the real magic begins when you descend the narrow staircase near the sacristy. With each step downward, you're traveling centuries into the past. The air grows cooler, the walls closer, and suddenly you're standing in the shadowy nave of a 4th century basilica, its faded frescoes whispering stories of early Christian martyrs. What makes this lower church extraordinary isn't just its preservation, but how it captures a pivotal moment in history. Here, in these dimly lit corridors, you can trace the quiet revolution as Christianity shifted from persecuted faith to state religion. Look closely at the walls, and you'll find painted crosses hidden beneath layers of plaster, likely covered during periods of persecution, then proudly revealed when it became safe to worship openly. The architecture itself tells a story of adaptation. Columns salvaged from pagan temples were repurposed to support this new house of worship, a physical metaphor for how Rome's spiritual landscape was being rewritten. But the journey doesn't end there. Another staircase winds even deeper, leading to the most surprising layer of all, a 1st century Roman apartment block, its brickwork still bearing the marks of ancient tools. Among these rooms, archaeologists uncovered something unexpected: a perfectly intact Mithraeum, the underground temple of a mysterious cult that once rivaled Christianity. Picture the scene: devotees of Mithras, the Persian god of light, gathering in this windowless chamber to share ritual meals beneath a ceiling painted with stars. The stone benches where they reclined still flank the central aisle, and at the far end, an altar carved with Mithras slaying a bull remains eerily intact. This collision of faiths beneath a single site isn't just coincidence, it's a testament to Rome's layered history. When the 4th century Christians built their basilica above the Mithraeum, they weren't erasing the past, they were building directly atop it, quite literally setting their new beliefs on the foundations of the old. The temple's location beneath what would become the Christian apse hints at deliberate symbolism, as if declaring spiritual victory without demolishing the evidence. Even the soundscape connects the eras. The constant rush of water you hear in the lowest level comes from an ancient aqueduct, still channeling streams beneath the city after 2,000 years. San Clement's greatest gift is how it collapses time, letting us touch multiple Romes at once. One moment you're admiring medieval mosaics of vine tendrils that curl like living things. The next you're tracing your fingers over a 1st century brick stamp bearing the name of the manufacturer, a small human signature surviving the empire's fall. It's this intimacy that transforms ruins into revelations, turning carved stone and faded pigment into bridges across centuries. Few places on Earth offer such a tangible, unbroken chain of human devotion, where every layer whispers, "We were here." Beneath the grand monuments and marble-clad forums that dominate our image of ancient Rome, there existed a whole other world, one of cramped apartment blocks, bustling market stalls, and the clamor of everyday life. While history books often focus on emperors and gladiators, the real heartbeat of the city pulsed in neighborhoods like the Suburra, where ordinary Romans lived, worked, and left behind traces of their lives in the most unexpected ways. Today, these forgotten districts lie buried under modern streets, their stories preserved in fragments waiting to be uncovered. Take the Suburra, for instance. In its heyday, this densely packed quarter just northeast of the Forum teemed with life. Artisans hammered out bronze wares in open-fronted workshops. Merchants hawked everything from Egyptian spices to Gallic wool, and families crowded into multi-story apartment buildings called insulae. These weren't the spacious villas of the elite but humble homes where the working class cooked, slept, and socialized in tight quarters. When archaeologists excavated beneath a contemporary shopping district, they found walls still scorched by ancient cooking fires and floors worn smooth by generations of footsteps. Even the graffiti survived, crude jokes, political slogans, and love notes scratched into plaster, proving that some human impulses never change. What makes these discoveries so extraordinary is how they append the myth of Rome as a city of pristine marble and perfect order. The Suburra was loud, messy, and vibrant, its narrow alleys echoing with the shouts of street vendors and the clatter of cartwheels. In one underground shop, researchers uncovered a stash of broken clay lamps, likely a repairman's stock in trade, proof that even in an empire famed for its engineering, everyday objects needed frequent fixing. Nearby, a tavern cellar yielded stacks of oyster shells and wine-stained pottery, hinting at raucous evenings where laborers unwound after long days building Rome's grandeur. The real magic lies in the small, intimate details. A child's wooden doll abandoned in a corner, a set of dice hidden beneath floorboards, perhaps dropped during a hasty exit from an illegal game. A wall painting in a modest home depicting not gods or heroes but a simple, still life of fruit, suggesting that beauty mattered even in cramped spaces. These fragments whisper across the centuries, reminding us that history isn't just about the powerful, it's about the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers who kept the empire running. Modern technology lets us reconstruct these neighborhoods with startling precision. By analyzing soil layers and mapping the foundations of buried buildings, archaeologists have recreated entire blocks of the Suburra in digital models. Suddenly, we can see how sunlight filtered through second-story windows, or how the scent of baking bread might have drifted from a bakery into the street. These aren't just ruins, they're frozen moments, offering a glimpse into a world where the rhythms of daily life, births, deaths, celebrations, and squabbles played out against the backdrop of an empire's rise and fall. Perhaps the most poignant discovery came from beneath a nondescript office building near Piazza Venezia. There, beneath layers of medieval rubble, lay the remains of a first-century apartment where fire had preserved a tragic scene, a family's meal still on the table, carbonized by the same blaze that likely claimed their lives. The loaf of bread, now petrified, sits forever uneaten, a haunting reminder that these buried streets weren't just archaeological sites but places where real people laughed, loved, and sometimes met sudden ends. As excavations continue, each shovel of earth turned reveals another piece of the puzzle. A drainage pipe clogged with olive pits tells us what people ate. A set of weights and measures hidden under a shop counter hints at the occasional shady deal. Even the position of doorways and staircases reveals social dynamics, which neighbors interacted, which shops drew crowds, which alleys became shortcuts for those in the know. This is history written not in treaties or triumphal arches, but in the wear patterns of threshold stones and the layers of plaster applied and reapplied over generations. These lost neighborhoods force us to rethink what we know about ancient Rome. The city wasn't just a stage for epic events. It was a living, breathing organism where millions of ordinary lives intertwined. Every time we walk past a modern cafe or boutique in Rome's historic center, we're treading over someone else's home, workplace, or favorite tavern, layers of human experience stacked like pages in a book. The next time you visit, look down. Beneath your feet, an entire world waits to be rediscovered. But Rome's underground secrets aren't just about the living. Beneath the city's bustle lies an entire realm devoted to the dead. The catacombs stretch for hundreds of miles, a shadowy mirror to the streets above, where generations of early Christians carved out resting places for their loved ones. These aren't mere burial tunnels, they're sacred galleries, their walls etched with symbols of hope and resurrection, a hidden testament to a faith that flourished even in darkness. Walk through the catacombs of Domitilla, and you'll find yourself in a maze of narrow passages lined with shelf-like niches, each once cradling a body wrapped in linen. The air is cool and still, the silence broken only by the occasional drip of water filtering through ancient stone. But look closer, and the walls come alive with faded frescoes: Christ as the Good Shepherd, Noah's Ark bobbing on celestial waves, Jonah mid-swirl in the belly of the whale. These weren't just decorations, they were declarations of belief, painted by hands that risked persecution to affirm their faith. What makes these burial networks so remarkable is how they double as time capsules of early Christian life. Inscriptions scratched into the rock reveal intimate details. A baker commemorated with a loaf of bread beside his name, a child's epitaph adorned with a tiny carved dove. Some alcoves bear Greek letters or Syriac symbols, evidence of Rome's diverse immigrant communities united in death. Even the arrangement of tombs speaks volumes. Wealthier families secured spacious cubicula with elaborate artwork, while simpler loculi held the less affluent, all equal in the eyes of their faith. The catacombs also served a purpose beyond burial. During times of persecution, these tunnels became clandestine spaces for worship. Hidden chambers with stone altars and benches suggest where secret masses might have been held, far from the prying eyes of Roman authorities. In one passage, archaeologists found charcoal smudges on the ceiling, traces of oil lamps that once illuminated gatherings where believers risked everything to practice their religion. Perhaps most moving are the small, personal touches left behind. A child's grave cradles a terracotta doll, its face worn smooth by time. A husband's epitaph to his wife includes a tender plea: "Be of good cheer, no one is immortal." These fragments remind us that the catacombs weren't just about death, but about love, memory, and the unshakable belief in something beyond this world. Modern visitors often focus on the grandeur of Rome's above-ground monuments, but the catacombs offer something far more intimate, a whisper of ordinary lives and quiet devotion, preserved in the cool, dark embrace of the earth. As sunlight filters through ventilation shafts cut centuries ago, it illuminates not just bones and dust, but the enduring human need to remember, to honor, and to hope. The Cloaca Maxima might not sound as glamorous as the Colosseum or the Pantheon, but this ancient sewer system was just as vital to Rome's survival, and its story is every bit as fascinating. Picture a city rapidly expanding, its hills and valleys dotted with temples and homes, but plagued by stagnant marshes and flooding from the Tiber River. Enter the visionary Etruscan kings of the 6th century BC, who didn't just want to build monuments, they wanted to engineer a city that could thrive. Their solution, a massive underground channel that would drain the swamps, carry away stormwater, and yes, even transport waste out of the city center. What began as a simple drainage ditch evolved into one of history's most sophisticated public works projects, a labyrinth of brick-lined tunnels that still function today, over 2,000 years later. Walking through the Cloaca Maxima's accessible sections feels like stepping into the guts of Rome itself. The tunnels, wide enough for a person to stand upright, curve beneath the Forum and along the Tiber's banks, their arched ceilings a testament to Roman engineering prowess. What's astonishing isn't just the scale, it's the foresight. The builders used gravity to their advantage, carefully sloping the channels to keep water flowing. They lined the walls with waterproof mortar, a mixture so durable it's resisted erosion for centuries. And unlike the haphazard sewers of medieval Europe, this system was designed for growth, with branches added over time to serve new neighborhoods. But the Cloaca's real genius lies in how it transformed urban life. Before its construction, Rome's low-lying areas were practically uninhabitable, riddled with disease-spreading marshes. By reclaiming this land, the sewer allowed the city to expand into the Forum Valley, creating space for markets, courts, and temples, the very heart of Roman public life. It wasn't just about sanitation, it was about shaping civilization. Even the name hints at its grandeur. Cloaca Maxima translates to greatest sewer, a title earned through sheer ambition. Modern explorers who venture into its depths find more than just echoes of ancient plumbing. The walls bear scratches from centuries of maintenance workers, and occasional artifacts, lost coins, broken pottery, hint at the lives above. In one section, archaeologists discovered a 1st century BCE relief carving of the river god Tiberinus, likely placed there as a protective charm against floods. This blend of practicality and spirituality captures the Roman mindset perfectly. Even infrastructure could be sacred. What's truly remarkable is how the Cloaca adapted to Rome's changing fortunes. When the empire fell and the city shrank, the sewer kept functioning, silently preventing medieval Rome from drowning in its own debris. Renaissance engineers marveled at its durability, incorporating its tunnels into new systems. Today, parts still handle stormwater, a living link to the city's earliest days. The next time you stroll past the Forum's ruins, remember, beneath your feet, the Cloaca Maxima flows on, a quiet testament to the engineering brilliance that made Rome eternal. Beneath Rome's modern sidewalks and office buildings, archaeologists have uncovered sacred spaces that tell a surprising story, one of spiritual evolution written in stone and mortar. Take the Temple of Mithras, discovered in the 1950s during routine construction near the Roman Stock Exchange. Workers digging a foundation suddenly broke through into an underground chamber, its walls adorned with frescoes of a young god slaying a bull. This wasn't just any shrine, it was a perfectly preserved Mithraeum, a temple to a deity whose cult once rivaled early Christianity. The discovery stopped construction in its tracks, revealing how Rome's past constantly reshapes its present. What makes these hidden temples so extraordinary is how they capture moments of religious transformation. Mithras wasn't Roman at all. He was a Persian god of light whose followers included soldiers, merchants, and even emperors. His underground temples, often built in caves or basement-like spaces, were designed to mimic the cosmos with vaulted ceilings painted like starry skies. Initiates underwent secret rituals, sharing ceremonial meals where bread and wine symbolized the god's sacrifice. Yet by the 4th century, as Christianity gained power, these temples were abandoned or deliberately filled in, their altars broken and statues defaced. The very existence of the Mithraeum beneath the stock exchange speaks volumes. It wasn't destroyed but quietly buried, its memory fading as new beliefs took root above it. This pattern repeats across the city. Beneath the church of Santa Prisca lies another Mithraeum, its walls still bearing inscriptions left by devotees. Nearby, excavations under the Basilica of San Crisogno uncovered an early Christian house church built atop a pagan shrine. These layers aren't random, they're physical evidence of spiritual competition, where one faith literally built upon the ruins of another. Temples to Isis, Cybele, and other imported gods met similar fates, repurposed as Christian churches or simply forgotten beneath rising street levels. The temples also reveal how religion shaped Rome's urban fabric. Sacred spaces weren't isolated. They anchored neighborhoods, drawing pilgrims and sparking commerce. The Temple of Mithras near the Circus Maximus sat beside a row of taverns, suggesting rituals were followed by communal feasting. A shrine to the Egyptian goddess Isis, discovered under a Renaissance palazzo, included a pharmacy stocked with exotic herbs, blending worship with healing. These weren't just places of prayer but hubs of daily life, where faith intersected with medicine, trade, and social bonding. Modern technology lets us reconstruct these spaces with startling intimacy. Laser scans of the Mithraeum under Santa Prisca show where worshippers gathered around a central aisle, their oil lamps leaving soot marks on the ceiling. Chemical analysis of soil samples reveals traces of ritual banquets, wine, honey, and breadcrumbs preserved for centuries. Even the orientation of temples tells a story. Many Mithraea align with the solstice, their entrances positioned to catch the first light of the winter sun, a symbol of the god's victory over darkness. Perhaps most poignant are the personal artifacts left behind. A votive statue tucked into a wall niche, a prayer scratched into plaster, a child's footprint preserved in drying mortar. These small traces remind us that these weren't abstract monuments but living spaces where people sought meaning and connection. When Constantine embraced Christianity in the 4th century, he didn't just change official religion. He set in motion a slow, uneven process that saw temples repurposed, rituals adapted, and urban landscapes rewritten. The next time you walk through Rome's bustling streets, remember, you're treading on sacred ground in the broadest sense. Every subway delay caused by an archaeological discovery, every church built atop ancient columns, even the curve of a modern street following some long-vanished temple's perimeter, all whisper of a city where the divine and the everyday have always been intertwined. These buried temples aren't just relics, they're layers in Rome's spiritual DNA, waiting to reveal their stories to anyone willing to look beneath the surface. The Roman Forum seems frozen in time at first glance, a collection of broken columns and weathered steps where tourists now wander. But look closer, and you realize this was never a static space. Every stone, every layer of pavement tells a story of reinvention. Archaeologists digging beneath the Forum's familiar ruins have uncovered something extraordinary. Not one lost city, but multiple Romes stacked like pages in a history book, each generation building directly atop the past. Start with the Lapis Niger, that mysterious black marble slab near the Arch of Septimius Severus. Beneath it lies what some scholars believe to be the oldest surviving monument in Rome, a 6th century BC altar, an inscribed stone block, possibly marking the legendary tomb of Romulus himself. This sacred spot was carefully preserved even as later Romans paved over it, suggesting some threads of memory persisted through centuries of reconstruction. Around it, excavations reveal successive layers of pavement Republican-era cobblestones covering earlier gravel paths, themselves covering compacted earth from when the Forum was just a marshy valley between hills. The real revelations come from the temples. The Temple of Saturn, with its iconic surviving columns, stands on foundations that predate the Republic. Beneath it, archaeologists found remnants of an even older altar, possibly dedicated to an agricultural deity before Saturn took precedence. Nearby, the Basilica Julia, a grand courthouse built by Julius Caesar, rises above the footprint of an earlier basilica from the 2nd century BC, which itself replaced simple market stalls. Each rebuild wasn't just about updating architecture, it reflected shifting power dynamics. When emperors constructed new basilicas, they weren't just providing space for lawsuits, they were literally overwriting republican institutions with imperial grandeur. Perhaps most telling are the subtle changes in materials. Early republican builders used local tufa stone, rough and practical. By the time Augustus remade the Forum, gleaming white Carrara marble became the standard, a deliberate statement of Rome's newfound wealth and reach. Dig down through these layers and you can trace the empire's expansion in real time. Volcanic rock from Pompeii appearing after the town's conquest, exotic marbles from Egypt following Augustus' victory over Cleopatra. Even the dirt tells stories. Soil samples show sudden increases in lead content during peak imperial construction, evidence of massive smelting operations to produce clamps and pipes. The Forum's evolution wasn't always orderly. After the Visigoths sacked Rome in 410 CE, parts of the square became a quarry, with marble stripped away to build churches elsewhere. Medieval Romans planted vegetable gardens between crumbling columns, while Renaissance artists scavenged sculptures for lime. Yet through all this, the site's symbolic power endured. When Mussolini ordered excavations in the 1930s, he wasn't just uncovering history. He was using these layers to craft a narrative of imperial continuity, linking fascist Italy to ancient glory. Today, new technologies let us see these hidden dimensions without lifting a shovel. Ground-penetrating radar reveals buried walls and roads beneath the visible ruins, while laser scans detect tool marks on stones, showing where ancient masons worked. In one startling discovery, researchers found traces of the original comitium, the circular assembly space where early Romans debated laws, lying several meters below the current ground level, its curved seating arrangement preserved in the alignment of later buildings. Walking through the Forum now is like moving through a time-lapse photograph. The broken column of Phocas, erected in 608 CE, stands just meters from the Umbilicus Urbis, the symbolic center of Rome dating back 800 years earlier. The contrast couldn't be sharper, one commemorating a fading empire's last gasp, the other marking the Republic's vibrant prime. This is the Forum's true genius. It doesn't just show us Rome at its height, but lets us touch every stage of its journey, from muddy marketplace to marble wonder to melancholy ruin. The next time you see a tourist standing on what looks like random rubble, remember, they're actually balancing on centuries of ambition, each layer whispering secrets about how a small river settlement became the capital of the world. Emperor Hadrian, known for grand structures like the Pantheon and his villa at Tivoli, also shaped Rome in ways most visitors never see beneath their feet. Hidden beneath the bustling streets near the Tiber River lies a labyrinth of tunnels and chambers, some wide enough for carts, others so narrow they force explorers to turn sideways. These aren't natural caves or forgotten sewers, but deliberate constructions commissioned by Hadrian himself, their purpose as enigmatic as the emperor's reputation. Were they storage spaces for grain or imperial treasures, escape routes for times of unrest, or perhaps something more symbolic, a physical manifestation of Hadrian's fascination with the unseen layers of power? The scale alone is staggering. Stretching from the Campus Martius to the Aventine Hill, these passages form a shadow city of vaulted brickwork and precise engineering. Unlike the rough-hewn catacombs or functional Cloaca Maxima, Hadrian's tunnels bear the hallmarks of imperial ambition: mortar mixed with crushed terracotta for extra strength, walls stamped with brickmakers' marks tracing shipments from distant kilns, and ventilation shafts disguised as ordinary wells. Some connect to known sites like the Temple of Hadrian, while others dead end abruptly, their original destinations lost to time. Archaeologists have pieced together clues from the few accessible sections. In one chamber beneath the Palazzo della Cancelleria, workers found stacks of amphorae, not for wine or oil, but curiously filled with sand from Egypt. Nearby, a niche carved into the wall held a statuette of Antinous, Hadrian's beloved companion, hinting at private rituals conducted away from public eyes. Even the tunnel's alignment sparks theories. Several follow celestial patterns, mirroring the emperor's interest in astrology and mystery cults. The most tantalizing mysteries lie in the sealed sections. Ground-penetrating radar has detected hollow spaces beneath the Basilica Neptuni, their contents unknown. One persistent legend speaks of a hidden chamber lined with purple marble, possibly intended as Hadrian's secret tomb, a final jest from an emperor who built his mausoleum above ground but may have reserved a private underworld for himself. Others suggest the tunnel served as a secure network for moving imperial messengers, or even as a clandestine meeting place for the Frumentarii, Rome's shadowy intelligence agents. What makes Hadrian's underground legacy so compelling is how it reflects his complex personality. Here was a ruler who traversed every corner of his empire yet craved seclusion, a builder of sunlit temples who also delved into darkness. His tunnels aren't just architectural feats, they're physical metaphors for the duality of imperial power, visible grandeur, masking carefully concealed mechanisms of control. As modern researchers inch closer to unsealing new passages, one thing becomes clear: Rome's eternal narrative isn't just written in marble and inscriptions, but in the cool, silent darkness beneath our feet. Buried beneath the Oppian Hill lies one of Rome's most astonishing time capsules, a sprawling palace so extravagant that later emperors literally tried to erase it from history. The Domus Aurea, or Golden House, was Emperor Nero's audacious response to the Great Fire of 64, a disaster he allegedly exploited to claim prime real estate in the heart of Rome. Covering over 300 acres, this wasn't just a residence. It was a fantastical landscape of pavilions, gardens, and even an artificial lake, all dripping with gold leaf and precious stones. But what makes it truly remarkable isn't just its opulence, it's the paradox of its survival. Nero's successors, eager to distance themselves from his tyrannical reputation, dismantled the palace above ground and repurposed its land for public monuments like the Colosseum. Yet beneath their new constructions, the Domus Aurea's subterranean halls remained perfectly preserved, sealed like a forbidden treasure chest. When Renaissance artists accidentally rediscovered these buried chambers in the late 15th century, they were stunned. Lowering themselves through holes in the hillside, they found vaulted ceilings adorned with vibrant frescoes of mythological scenes, their colors miraculously intact after centuries in darkness. Among these explorers was Raphael, who studied the intricate designs, grotesques of intertwining vines, fantastical creatures, and delicate arabesques, and incorporated them into his own masterpieces, sparking a revival of ancient Roman motifs in Renaissance art. The irony is delicious. Nero's reviled palace, intentionally buried to suppress his memory, became the catalyst for one of Europe's greatest artistic movements. The Domus Aurea's architecture reveals Nero's obsession with theatricality. One octagonal dining room, crowned by a rotating dome, showered guests with petals and perfume during banquets. Hidden passageways allowed servants to appear and vanish like stagehands, while hydraulic mechanisms transformed rooms into water-filled grottos for aquatic performances. But the most telling detail lies in the palace's orientation. Nero positioned his private quarters to capture the first and last light of day, a symbolic claim to the sun itself, fitting for an emperor who famously proclaimed, "At last I can begin to live like a human being." Modern archaeologists face unique challenges here. The same waterproof mortar that preserved the frescoes now traps humidity, causing delicate pigments to flake when exposed to air. Laser scans and multispectral imaging have revealed hidden chambers beneath the known corridors, including one lined with unusual green marble, possibly Nero's private theater. Even the graffiti tells a story. Ancient tourists scratched their names alongside Renaissance ones, creating a palimpsest of curiosity spanning 1500 years. The Domus Aurea stands as a testament to Rome's complex relationship with memory. By burying Nero's palace, later emperors didn't destroy it, they fossilized it, ensuring its rediscovery would amplify both the infamy and the allure of Nero's rule. Today, as restorers painstakingly stabilize its fragile walls, they grapple with the same paradox: how to preserve a monument that was meant to be forgotten, yet now holds irreplaceable clues to Rome's artistic and political evolution. Walking its dim corridors, you can almost hear the echoes of two conflicting impulses: the desire to erase the past and the impossibility of truly doing so. The roar of 50,000 spectators would have shaken the Colosseum's upper tiers, but beneath their feet, in the shadowy maze of the Hypogeum, an entirely different drama unfolded. This underground labyrinth, a warren of narrow passageways, cramped holding cells, and pulley-operated platforms, was the beating heart of Rome's most infamous spectacles. While the arena above hosted the polished performance, the Hypogeum served as the backstage where the gritty reality of bloodsport took shape. Recent excavations and laser scans have peeled back centuries of dirt and neglect, revealing an engineering marvel that transformed violence into theater with chilling precision. Imagine the scene: gladiators pacing in dimly lit corridors, their armor clinking as they awaited their turn on the lifts that would hoist them into the blinding sunlight. Bears and lions, shipped from the empire's farthest reaches, snarled in cages rigged with counterweights, moments from being unleashed through trapdoors. The Hypogeum wasn't just a basement, it was a carefully choreographed machine, its 80 vertical shafts and hidden ramps allowing for sudden, dramatic entrances that sent crowds into frenzy. Archaeologists have even uncovered remnants of the hemp ropes and wooden winches that powered these systems, their design so sophisticated that some mechanisms could lift beasts weighing over 1,000 pounds in seconds. What's most striking isn't just the technology, but how it served the empire's propaganda. Each surprise reveal, a tiger materializing as if by magic, a gladiator rising from beneath the sand, reinforced the idea of Roman ingenuity taming chaos. The Hypogeum's layout tells its own story. Imperial boxes had direct views of the best trapdoors, ensuring rulers got the most dramatic angles, while commoners saw only the results. Even the flooring was strategic. Layers of sand and timber absorbed blood, making cleanup swift so the next spectacle could begin without delay. But the Hypogeum also holds quieter, more haunting traces. Inscriptions scratched into walls by waiting combatants range from boasts to prayers. One particularly poignant graffito depicts a victorious gladiator's palm branch alongside the words, "We who are about to die," a probable reference to the famous salute. Animal bones found in the tunnels bear cut marks showing some beasts were reused in multiple games, their suffering prolonged for economy's sake. These details strip away the mythologized veneer of the games, exposing the calculated brutality beneath the pageantry. Modern technology continues to rewrite our understanding of this space. Ground-penetrating radar recently mapped previously unknown chambers beneath the Hypogeum's western edge, possibly storage for elaborate stage sets or additional animal pens. Thermal imaging has detected variations in mortar composition, hinting at repairs made after the Great Fire of 217, when the arena's wooden upper levels collapsed into its bowels. Even the mortar itself tells a story. Analysis reveals volcanic ash from Pompeii mixed into the concrete, a morbid recycling of one disaster to fuel another's spectacles. Walking the Hypogeum today, with its damp air and scarred floors, it's impossible not to feel the weight of its dual legacy. Here, Rome demonstrated both its technical brilliance and its capacity for cruelty, all within the same brick walls. The Colosseum's grandeur above ground was always an illusion, a distraction from the grim machinery below that made the magic and the horror possible. As archaeologists keep probing these tunnels, each discovery peels back another layer of the paradox that defined Rome, a civilization capable of breathtaking innovation, yet willing to deploy it in service of violence so meticulously staged it almost looked like art. The Aqua Claudia didn't just bring water to Rome, it carved a hidden world beneath its streets, a network of tunnels so precisely engineered that some sections still channel fresh springs today. While tourists admire the towering arches that stride across the countryside, the aqueduct's real genius lies underground, where miles of brick-lined channels snake beneath neighborhoods and parks, invisible yet vital. Descending into one of these passages feels like entering the veins of the city itself, the air cool and damp, the walls worn smooth by centuries of flowing water. Here, Roman engineers solved problems with elegant simplicity. Self-cleaning sedimentation tanks to filter debris, graduated slopes to maintain perfect flow, and cleverly placed access shafts for maintenance, innovations so effective they inspired modern water systems. What's astonishing isn't just the scale, but the adaptability. When builders encountered hills, they tunneled straight through, leaving behind access points marked with carved numerals indicating distances. Where valleys interrupted the route, they constructed pressurized siphons using lead pipes, a technique that defied gravity to keep water moving. The Aqua Claudia's underground stretches reveal meticulous craftsmanship, waterproof mortar mixed with crushed pottery, inspection markers chiseled into the brickwork, even subtle curves designed to reduce turbulence. This wasn't just infrastructure, it was a lifeline, delivering over 200 million gallons daily to baths, fountains, and private homes, turning a sprawling city into a place of unparalleled luxury. The aqueducts also tell a story of social engineering. Distribution casella junction boxes where water branched into neighborhoods weren't placed randomly. Wealthy districts received priority, their pipes larger and more direct, while industrial zones got just enough for dye works and bakeries. Archaeologists have traced these biases in pipe sizes and valve placements, revealing how water became both a resource and a tool of control. Yet even ordinary citizens benefited. Public fountains supplied by the aqueducts offered clean water to all, a radical idea in the ancient world where springs were often privatized. Modern explorations uncover surprises at every turn. In the Aqua Virgo, still feeding Rome's iconic Trevi fountain, divers recently discovered forgotten branches leading to long-lost imperial villas. Thermal imaging along the Aqua Traiana revealed patches of original mortar holding strong after 19 centuries, its recipe volcanic ash and lime now studied by materials scientists. Most poignant are the small, human traces, a maintenance worker's graffiti marking a repaired section, a child's toy dropped down a shaft, a votive niche where laborers left offerings to the water nymphs. These tunnels weren't just functional, they were spaces where people lived, worked, and occasionally left glimpses of themselves. The legacy of Rome's hidden waterways stretches far beyond antiquity. Renaissance engineers copied their blueprints to revive the city's failing supply. New York's Croton Aqueduct borrowed their gravity-fed design in the 19th century. Even today, urban planners study how Rome balanced public and private access, a lesson in equitable resource distribution. The next time you turn on a tap or walk past a fountain, remember the invisible systems keeping our cities alive owe their existence to those shadowy tunnels beneath Rome, where engineering brilliance and pure, flowing water transformed civilization forever. Downstream from Rome, where the Tiber River once met the sea in a bustling delta, lies the ghostly outline of Oster Anticar, a city that fed an empire. Unlike Pompeii, frozen in a single catastrophic moment, Oster's ruins tell a slower story of decline, its grandeur gradually swallowed by silt and shifting shorelines. Walk its streets today, and you'll find yourself in a maritime metropolis where grain from Egypt, silk from China, and wine from Gaul pass through warehouses before reaching Rome's hungry markets. The scale is staggering. Apartment blocks that house dockworkers still stand 3 stories tall, their walls scorched by ancient cooking fires, while black and white mosaics advertise long-vanished taverns with images of ships and fish. What makes Oster extraordinary isn't just its preservation, but how it captures the mechanics of an empire's survival. In the shadow of its Capitolium temple, archaeologists uncovered the offices of the grain measurers, a bureaucratic space where clerks calculated shipments that would keep Rome's million citizens fed. Nearby, the Piazzale del Corporesini features a semicircle of offices, each fronted by mosaics declaring the goods traded there. Negotiator of Carthaginian leather or agent for Alexandrian grain. This wasn't just a port, it was a sprawling customs zone where taxes funded imperial ambitions and spices from Arabia mingled with North African marble. The river's betrayal began subtly. As the Tiber deposited sediment over centuries, its course meandered, stranding Oster's docks farther from the sea. Engineers fought back, digging canals, dredging channels, but nature won. By the 5th century, ships bypassed Oster entirely for Portus, a massive artificial harbor built by Emperor Claudius. Yet this abandonment became Oster's salvation. Without later construction to disturb it, the city fossilized, its daily life preserved in eerie detail. In one bakery, millstones still rest beside ovens, their grooves worn smooth by grinding Egyptian wheat. A tavern's counter bears circular stains from wine cups, while a theater's backstage area retains graffiti from actors complaining about cheap audiences. Recent excavations reveal even deeper layers. Underwater archaeologists mapping the lost coastline found submerged wharves and shipwrecks laden with Spanish olive oil amphorae. Ground-penetrating radar detected an entire neighborhood beneath the current water table, its wooden pilings perfectly preserved in the oxygen-poor mud. These discoveries rewrite Oster's timeline. What seemed like gradual decline was actually a dramatic battle against rising waters, with engineers constantly adapting to a changing world. Standing on Oster's Decumanus Maximus today, it's hard not to feel the echoes of a city that was both gateway and guardian. The same river that brought riches eventually brought oblivion, yet in its silence, Oster speaks volumes about how Rome's empire functioned, not through legions alone, but through the clerks, merchants, and dockhands who kept goods flowing. The salt-crusted mosaics and weed-choked warehouses remind us that even the mightiest civilizations depend on geography's whims, and that sometimes abandonment is the kindest preservation of all. The Cryptobale doesn't just display artifacts, it peels back time itself. Nestled in the heart of modern Rome, this unassuming museum sits atop the ruins of a 1st century BCE theater complex built by Lucius Cornelius Balbus, a close ally of Emperor Augustus. But step inside, and you're not just walking through history, you're descending through it, floor by floor, century by century. The ground level greets visitors with marble columns and fragments of the theater's grand facade, but the real journey begins as you move downward. Each staircase takes you deeper into Rome's layered past, like flipping through the pages of a book written in brick, pottery, and everyday objects lost to time. What makes the Cryptobale extraordinary isn't just the artifacts, but how they're arranged not behind glass but in situ, exactly where they were found. In one chamber, a Roman bakery's oven still stands beside charred loaves of bread, their 2,000-year-old outlines preserved like shadows. A few steps away, the floor suddenly changes from ancient mosaic to medieval cobblestones, marking the moment when this bustling theater district transformed into a quieter neighborhood of workshops and homes. The walls tell their own story. Patches of fresco from a wealthy Roman's dining room lie beneath crude medieval graffiti, proving that even the grandest spaces were repurposed by ordinary people as empires rose and fell. The museum's genius lies in its refusal to separate high and low history. Delicate glassware from a patrician's table sits near the simple clay lamps of laborers, both equally valued as clues to Rome's evolving identity. One exhibit traces the life cycle of a single city block, from its origins as part of Balbus Theatre to a 7th century soap factory complete with vats still stained by lye, to a Renaissance-era church built directly atop the ancient ruins. This isn't just archaeology, it's urban biography, showing how Romans constantly recycled their city rather than abandoning it. Perhaps most revealing are the small, accidental time capsules. A hoard of 9th century coins found beneath a doorway speaks to some long-forgotten emergency, a hurried stash during a Viking raid or papal conflict. A child's leather sandal, lost in a gutter, now rests exactly where it slipped off 15 centuries ago. Even the soil layers hold surprises. Pollen analysis revealed that medieval Romans grew vegetables in what had once been an imperial-era plaza, their gardens flourishing in the shadow of crumbling marble. The Cryptobale's greatest lesson is that Rome's survival wasn't about grand rebuilding, but relentless adaptation. When earthquakes toppled columns, locals hauled away the rubble for new houses. When the Tiber flooded, they raised their floors and carried on. This museum captures the rhythm of an eternal city, not because it stayed the same, but because it never stopped changing, each generation leaving its mark not by erasing the past, but by building upon it one layer at a time. Beneath the polished facades of Rome's Renaissance palazzos, another world of luxury lies concealed, one where marble floors gleamed under flickering oil lamps and frescoed walls whispered of untold wealth. These buried villas, known as domus, weren't just homes, they were statements of power designed to dazzle guests and proclaim their owner's status. Take Palazzo Valentini, where modern visitors can stand on glass floors gazing down at a 1st century residence so lavish it rivals imperial palaces. The intricate black and white mosaics depicting mythological scenes weren't just decoration, they were conversation starters, designed to impress senators and foreign dignitaries during lavish dinner parties. What set these elite residences apart wasn't just their beauty, but their cutting-edge comforts. Hypocaust systems, networks of hollow pillars and underfloor channels pumped warm air from wood-fired furnaces, creating the ancient equivalent of central heating. In some villas, lead pipes delivered fresh spring water to private fountains, while ingenious venting systems carried cooking smoke away from dining areas. The domus beneath Palazzo Valentini even featured a private bath suite with temperature-controlled rooms, proving that Roman aristocrats valued relaxation as much as grandeur. Virtual reconstructions peel back the centuries, transforming scattered ruins into vivid spaces where history feels tangible. Projected onto the original walls, digital restorations show how sunlight once filtered through linen curtains onto citrus wood furniture, or how diners reclined on couches beneath ceilings painted to resemble starry skies. One particularly striking animation reveals how a seemingly abstract mosaic fragment originally formed part of an elaborate marine scene, its missing dolphins and sea nymphs now swimming back into place through augmented reality. These technologies don't just rebuild structures, they resurrect lifestyles, letting us witness how the elite entertained in rooms perfumed with exotic incense from Arabia. The survival of these homes is as remarkable as their opulence. When Rome's population shrank in the Middle Ages, many domus were simply filled in to create stable foundations for newer buildings. This accidental preservation sealed away delicate details like wax tablet business records in carbonized cupboards, or pantry shelves still stocked with amphorae labeled with their vintage. At the Domus Aurea, Nero's infamous Golden Palace, Renaissance artists lowered themselves through holes in the ceiling to study the frescoes, unknowingly preserving their own graffiti alongside ancient scribbles, creating a dialogue across 15 centuries. Perhaps the most poignant discoveries are the personal ones. In one subterranean triclinium, a dining room designed for reclining meals, archaeologists found a child's game board scratched into the edge of a marble pool. Nearby, a mosaic warning, "Beware of the dog," hints at a long-gone household pet. These intimate touches remind us that behind the grandeur, these were real homes where people celebrated birthdays, worried about debts, and scolded children for tracking mud across expensive floors. The contrast between past and present couldn't be starker. Where stockbrokers now sip espresso in modern offices, senators once plotted political maneuvers over Falernian wine. The same streets that today echo with Vespa engines once resounded with the clatter of chariot wheels carrying wealthy patrons home. These buried villas aren't just architectural wonders, they're mirrors reflecting how human desires for comfort, beauty, and status transcend time, even if our methods of achieving them have changed. The next time you walk past an unassuming palazzo in Rome, remember, beneath your feet, an entire world of ancient luxury waits, preserved in darkness like a jewel box forgotten under layers of dust. The cult of Mithras thrived in the shadows of ancient Rome, its temples deliberately hidden beneath the city's bustling streets. Unlike the grand public shrines to Jupiter or Mars, these Mithraea were intimate, windowless chambers, often tucked into natural caves or repurposed basement spaces. Step inside one today, and you'll find a stark contrast to Christianity's soaring cathedrals. The ceilings are low, the walls unadorned except for faded frescoes of celestial constellations. At the heart of each temple stands a central aisle flanked by stone benches, where initiates once reclined for ritual meals beneath a carved altar depicting Mithras slaying a bull. This wasn't just decoration, it was the cult's sacred narrative frozen in stone, a scene repeated in every Mithraeum from Rome to the edges of the empire. What made this Persian god so appealing to Roman soldiers, merchants, and even emperors? The answer lies in the mysteries themselves, a blend of astrology, brotherhood, and symbolic rebirth. Initiates progressed through 7 grades, each associated with a planet: raven, bridegroom, soldier, lion, Persian, sun runner, and father. Archaeological finds reveal tokens and masks corresponding to these ranks, suggesting elaborate initiation rites. A Mithraeum beneath the baths of Caracalla yielded a cache of ritual objects: a small knife for symbolic sacrifices, a bronze lamp shaped like a lion's head, and ceramic vessels still bearing traces of wine and bread. These weren't just props, they were tools for transformation, guiding devotees through layers of cosmic understanding. The temple's celestial symbolism runs deep. Many Mithraea align precisely with the winter solstice sunrise, their narrow entrances designed to funnel a single beam of light onto the altar at dawn. In the Mithraeum under Santa Prisca, zodiac signs mingle with painted processions of initiates wearing animal masks, their faces turned toward a radiant sun god. Scholars debate whether this reflects an ancient star map or a spiritual journey through the heavens. Either way, the effect is unmistakable. This was a religion that married earthly ritual with cosmic order, offering followers a sense of place in the universe. Christianity's eventual dominance nearly erased Mithras from history. Many Mithraea were deliberately desecrated, altars smashed, statues decapitated, their stones repurposed for churches. Yet some survived almost untouched, like the temple beneath San Clemente, abandoned but not destroyed. Its preservation is eerily perfect. The stone bench still bears the imprint of generations of initiates, while soot marks on the ceiling trace the paths of countless oil lamps. This wasn't just a place of worship, it was a time capsule, capturing the whispered prayers and shared meals of men who sought meaning in the stars. Modern technology reveals secrets the ancients never intended to share. Multispectral imaging in the Circus Maximus Mithraeum uncovered hidden inscriptions, prayers to invincible Mithras, scratched into plaster by devotees. Soil analysis detected traces of hallucinogenic plants near altars, hinting at visionary experiences. Even the bones tell stories. Isotope testing on remains near Oster's Mithraeum showed some initiates traveled from as far as Syria or Egypt, proving this was no local curiosity but an empire-wide network of belief. The true power of these underground shrines lies in their humanity. A child's footprint preserved in drying mortar at the Capua Mithraeum suggests families participated in some rituals. A worn gaming board carved into a cornerstone speaks of camaraderie between ceremonies. These weren't cold, impersonal spaces but vibrant communities where people celebrated promotions, mourned losses, and sought transcendence together. As sunlight filters through modern access shafts onto ancient star paintings, one thing becomes clear: the Mithraea weren't just temples. They were portals to a lost world of devotion, where the divine and the daily walked hand in hand beneath Rome's unseeing streets. The cobblestones beneath modern Rome hold more than just dirt. They cradle entire highways of history, frozen in time. When workers digging a new subway line in 2008 hit a stretch of perfectly preserved basalt blocks, they weren't just uncovering rubble. They'd found a section of the Via Flaminia, the ancient road that once connected Rome to the Adriatic coast. Walk its surface today, and your footsteps echo those of countless travelers, merchants hauling silk from the east, legionnaires marching to defend northern borders, pilgrims heading to sacred sites. The grooves worn into the stones by iron-rimmed cartwheels tell their own story, marking paths where commerce and conquest rolled forward for centuries. These buried streets aren't just relics, they're time machines. The Via Appia, Rome's legendary Queen of Roads, stretches beneath modern apartment blocks with its original curbstones still intact. Archaeologists studying its layers have uncovered something unexpected: not one road, but several, built one atop another as ground levels rose. Each version reflects a different era. Republican-era slabs bear quarry marks from the 2nd century BC, while imperial renovations used finer stone, cut with precision to impress visitors entering the capital. Even the roadside tombs, now subterranean, whisper secrets. One mausoleum's foundation contained a child's ivory doll, dropped during construction and forgotten until modern drills revealed it. The engineering behind these roads reveals Rome's mastery of infrastructure. Cross-sections show meticulous layering, large stones at the base for drainage, smaller gravel compacted above, and finally those iconic flat paving stones sloped slightly to channel rainwater into gutters. But the real genius lies in the details. Along the Via Tiburtina, excavators found lead pipes running beneath the pavement, part of an ingenious system that used road gradients to distribute water to roadside inns and stables. Elsewhere, mile markers carved with distances to provincial capitals doubled as advertising reminders of the empire's reach to every traveler passing by. Trade routes pulse through these stones like fossilized veins. Soil analysis along the Via Ostiensis detected traces of North African olive oil in the ruts. evidence of wagons heavy with amphorae bound for Rome's warehouses. Near the Porta Maggiore, a collapsed section of the Via Labicana preserved impressions of camel hoofs, exotic beasts from Syria or Arabia, likely part of a triumphal procession. Even the wear patterns tell tales. Stretches near city gates show deeper grooves on one side, suggesting customs checks slowed traffic as merchants entered the capital. Military movements left their marks too. On the Via Salaria, named for the salt trade that financed early Rome's wars, archaeologists uncovered a scatter of rusty hobnails, the cleat-like studs from legionary sandals. Their distribution suggests a cohort pausing to regroup, perhaps during the chaotic year of the four emperors. Nearby, a carved stone once bore the insignia of the 10th Legion, now faded but still hinting at the units that marched this way to secure the empire's frontiers. What makes these ghost roads so compelling is their ordinariness. Unlike monumental arches or temples, they weren't built to impress gods or emperors, but to serve farmers, messengers, and bakers. A tavern's threshold worn smooth by sandals, a groove worn by generations of donkeys tied to a post, even a game board scratched into a roadside stone. These humble touches collapse time, connecting us to people who walked these paths not as history, but as daily life. Modern Rome rumbles overhead, but beneath the traffic and tourists, the empire's heartbeat still thrums in these silent streets, waiting for the next shovel or scanner to bring its stories back to light. The Tiber River didn't just flow through Rome, it built the city, fed it, and then quietly swallowed whole chunks of its history. Today, beneath the trendy cafes and apartment buildings of the modern riverbanks, archaeologists are uncovering a lost world of commerce and chaos, where the pulse of ancient Rome's economy once beat strongest. Imagine walking along the Lungotva, the broad avenue that now lines the Tiber, unaware that beneath your feet lie the remains of massive warehouses stacked with grain from Egypt, olive oil from Spain, and marble from Greece. These riverside structures didn't crumble into ruin, they were drowned layer by layer as centuries of floods deposited thick blankets of silt, preserving them like snapshots of a bustling port frozen in time. Recent excavations near the ancient Emporium district have revealed just how much Rome owed to its river. Workers digging foundations for a new hotel stumbled upon a stretch of 2nd century BC docking platforms, their oak pilings still sturdy after 2 millennia in the mud. Nearby, the outlines of Horea warehouses with ingenious ventilation systems show how the city safeguarded its lifelines of food and goods. But the real treasures lie in the smaller details. A broken amphora still bearing a merchant's painted label, a ledger scratched into wax recording the arrival of 20,000 modii of wheat, even the imprint of a cat's paw in drying mortar. These aren't just artifacts, they're fragments of a living system that kept 1 million Romans fed and clothed. The river's role as a highway comes alive in the most unexpected finds. In 1928, construction near Ponte Sublicio uncovered the ghostly ribs of a 1st century CE cargo ship, its hull packed with North African pottery. More surprising was its cargo, a stash of lead ingots stamped with the name of a Spanish mining company, proof of an industrial supply chain stretching across the Mediterranean. Even the ship's construction told a story. Its planks were fastened with copper nails, a luxury suggesting this was no ordinary barge but a vessel for high-value goods, possibly owned by an imperial contractor. But the Tiber wasn't just a bringer of wealth, it was a force of chaos. Soil cores drilled along its banks reveal alternating layers of brick and mud, evidence of constant rebuilding after floods. In the shadow of the Aventine Hill, archaeologists found a 1st century bakery buried under 6 feet of sediment, its ovens still filled with charred loaves from the day the waters rushed in. Nearby, a collapsed ramp leading to a submerged temple of Mithras suggests how quickly disaster could strike. Worshippers may have fled mid-ritual as rising waters lapped at the stairs. The river's most haunting gift is its power to preserve the ordinary. At the site of the ancient portus Tibrinus, researchers uncovered a section of 2nd century CE sidewalk lined with shopfronts. Beneath the mud lay a scatter of coins, fish bones, and broken glass, the detritus of a busy market day interrupted. One shop's counter still held scales and a set of bronze weights, their values carefully adjusted to cheat customers just a little with each transaction. Even the graffiti survived, crude caricatures of politicians, advertisements for upcoming gladiator games, and a love note scrawled by a sailor missing his sweetheart back in Alexandria. What makes these discoveries so vital is how they rewrite our understanding of Rome's economy. The Tiber wasn't just a backdrop to history, it was the main artery of an empire, its currents carrying everything from Egyptian papyrus to British tin. Modern sonar scans have mapped over a dozen sunken vessels along its ancient course, some still laden with cargo, others stripped by salvage crews the day after sinking. Each wreck adds another piece to the puzzle: lead pipes for the city's water system, marble columns too heavy for carts, even exotic animals destined for the arena, their bones still locked in submerged cages. As climate change makes the Tiber's floods more severe, archaeologists race against time and water. Every winter storm threatens to erode newly exposed structures or wash away fragile organic materials. But with each rescue excavation, another piece of Rome's submerged story surfaces. A trader's seal ring lost in the mud, a shipment of Gaulish wine sealed intact, the foundation stones of a temple to the river god himself. These silent witnesses remind us that the eternal city's greatness wasn't just built on marble and conquest, but on the unpredictable, life-giving waters that still flow and hide its secrets today. For centuries, whispers have swirled about vast repositories of knowledge hidden beneath Rome's streets. Legendary libraries like Emperor Domitian's, said to house scrolls from every corner of the empire. While archaeologists haven't yet uncovered a single grand underground hall stacked with parchment, what they have found is perhaps even more intriguing: fragments of a patchwork literary underworld. Beneath churches, palaces, and even ordinary apartment blocks, snippets of Rome's intellectual life survive: carbonized scrolls fused together by volcanic heat, wax tablets preserving legal contracts, and terracotta jars that once held precious texts. Each discovery is a breadcrumb leading us deeper into the labyrinth of Rome's lost wisdom. One of the most tantalizing finds emerged near the Palatine Hill, where workers repairing a sewer stumbled upon a cache of ivory tokens inscribed with Greek letters. These turned out to be library catalog markers, likely from Domitian's famed collection. Though the scrolls they referenced are long gone, their existence confirms that Rome's elite maintained sophisticated systems to organize knowledge. Nearby, in the basement of a Renaissance palazzo, researchers uncovered a sealed room filled with pigeonhole shelves, an ancient filing cabinet for scrolls, its niches still bearing traces of cedar oil used to repel insects. These weren't just storage spaces, they were carefully designed to preserve texts in a city prone to floods and fires. The real treasure troves, however, lie in unexpected places. Beneath the baths of Caracalla, archaeologists found a network of small chambers lined with lead pipes. Initially thought to be plumbing, their true purpose became clear when a team using thermal imaging detected unusual temperature patterns, consistent with the climate control needed to store delicate papyrus. Elsewhere in the Subura district, a 1st century apartment's basement yielded a stack of wax tablets recording loans, marriages, and even a poignant letter from a soldier to his mother. These weren't high literature, but they paint a vivid picture of how deeply literacy penetrated Roman society. Natural disasters ironically became history's accidental librarians. The eruption of Vesuvius that obliterated Pompeii also preserved entire libraries in Herculaneum, where hundreds of scrolls carbonized in the heat now reveal their secrets through advanced CT scans. In Rome itself, a fire in the Temple of Peace during the reign of Commodus may have inadvertently safeguarded documents. Excavations there uncovered a layer of ash-packed scroll fragments, their ink still legible, tax records, philosophical treatises, and even what appears to be a merchant's joke book. The hunt for Rome's lost libraries isn't just about recovering texts, it's about reconstructing the infrastructure of thought. Recent scans beneath Trajan's Forum hint at chambers perfectly aligned for scroll storage, dry, elevated, and connected to the imperial administrative complex. Could these be the remnants of the Ulpian Library, whose twin halls for Greek and Latin works were celebrated across the empire? Or perhaps they're part of a larger network, linked by tunnels known only to ancient librarians? What makes these fragments so compelling is their resilience. A single scrap of papyrus found in a drain near the Circus Maximus contained lines from Virgil's Aeneid, proving that even Rome's sewers couldn't wash away its literary soul. As new technologies like multispectral imaging and AI-assisted reconstruction unlock texts once considered unreadable, who knows what other voices from antiquity might yet emerge from the darkness? The real library of Rome may never be one room, but 1,000 scattered pieces, each waiting to whisper its part of the story. Rome's military mastery wasn't limited to open battlefields or towering walls. It thrived in the darkness beneath the city, where a hidden network of tunnels and chambers formed an underground line of defense. While the baths of Caracalla dazzled above ground with their soaring arches and steaming pools, their foundations concealed a labyrinth of service corridors that doubled as covert escape routes. Archaeologists mapping these passages found grooves in the walls where torches once burned, illuminating paths wide enough for armed soldiers to move swiftly. But this wasn't just about escape, it was about control. Secret staircases connected the baths to nearby military barracks, allowing troops to mobilize unseen, a clever failsafe during riots or coups. The real strategic genius lay in Rome's ability to repurpose everyday structures for defense. Take the Cloaca Maxima. While its primary function was drainage, historians now believe its widest tunnels could have funneled reinforcements during emergencies. Near the Porta San Sebastiano, excavations revealed a fortified chamber beneath the city walls, its ceiling reinforced with crossbeams to withstand battering rams. Inside, stacks of lead sling bullets and unused arrowheads suggest this was no mere storage room but a last-stand position, where defenders could rain down projectiles through hidden shafts if enemies breached the gates. Siege warfare left its mark too. Beneath the Palatine Hill, a system of narrow, twisting tunnels bears the scars of ancient countermining, a deadly game of cat and mouse where defenders would dig toward enemy tunnels to collapse them or ambush sappers. Charred timber supports and soot-stained walls tell of fires set to smoke out attackers, while grooves in the stone may have anchored pulley systems for hauling debris. These weren't improvised solutions, they were part of a calculated defense strategy, refined over centuries of conflict. Even Rome's sacred spaces played a role. The Temple of Vesta's underground chambers, once thought to hold only sacred flames, contained caches of grain and sealed water reservoirs, enough to sustain the Vestal Virgins during prolonged sieges. Nearby, the tabularium's basement hid reinforced archives where sensitive military records could be protected from fire or looters. Every layer of the city, from temples to taverns, was designed with dual purposes in mind, blending civic life with military readiness. Modern laser scans have uncovered the most startling revelation: a vast, previously unknown network beneath the Capitoline Hill, its walls lined with niches for signal torches. The pattern suggests a communication system, allowing messages to be relayed across the city without exposing messengers to enemy arrows. This wasn't just about survival, it was about maintaining command when the streets above became battlegrounds. What makes these defenses extraordinary isn't their scale, but their adaptability. When Goths besieged Rome in the 6th century, defenders reportedly used the theater of Pompey's underground passages to launch surprise attacks. Centuries later, medieval Romans repurposed the same tunnels to store grain during papal conflicts. Even today, sections of these hidden corridors remain classified by the Italian military, their full extent still shrouded in secrecy. Rome's underground wasn't just a reflection of its past, it was an insurance policy, ensuring the eternal city could endure whatever chaos raged above. Long before towering basilicas dominated Rome's skyline, the city's Christian community thrived in shadows, transforming ordinary spaces into sacred ones with whispers and candlelight. Imagine a nondescript apartment near the Circus Maximus, its walls painted with simple fish symbols known only to initiates. Inside, worshippers gathered around makeshift altars, their prayers muffled by the roar of chariot races outside. These clandestine house churches, known as tituli, were the beating heart of early Christianity, where faith persisted under constant threat of persecution. The titulus Fascioli, now buried beneath the church of Sant'Inario e Cileo, began as one such humble gathering place. Its name, meaning bandage, hints at local lore about St. Peter dropping a foot wrap here while fleeing Nero's persecutions, a relic that turned a private home into hallowed ground. What made these hidden worship spaces so ingenious was their camouflage. From the street, they looked like any other Roman residence, complete with shops or workshops on the ground floor to deflect suspicion. But behind locked doors, courtyards became baptisteries, and dining rooms doubled as chapels with frescoes of Jonah or the Good Shepherd, symbols rich in meaning to believers but innocuous to outsiders. Archaeologists peeling back layers at sites like Santa Pudenziana have uncovered these subtle transformations. A 3rd century kitchen wall suddenly interrupted by a baptismal font, or a pagan family's decorative vines repainted with Eucharistic grapes. The catacombs took this secrecy deeper, literally. While often misunderstood as mere burial grounds, these tunnels beneath the Via Appia served as spiritual hubs where communities gathered to honor martyrs and celebrate faith away from prying eyes. The catacombs of Priscilla reveal astonishing artistry, frescoes of the Virgin Mary cradling Jesus predating official Christian imagery by centuries. One chamber, dubbed the Greek Chapel, showcases vibrant scenes of resurrection painted between shelves of bones, proving that death and hope coexisted in these underground sanctuaries. When Emperor Constantine legalized Christianity in 313, these covert spaces didn't vanish, they blossomed. The titulus Fascioli's evolution tells the story. Its original house church became the foundation for a 4th century basilica. Its axis shifted to align with grand processions rather than domestic life. Brick stamps confirm how quickly the transformation occurred. Materials from demolished imperial buildings were rushed in to sanctify what had once been hidden. Yet traces of the old faith remained. At San Clemente, the medieval altar stands directly above the house church's original meeting room, creating a vertical thread of devotion across 1,000 years. The genius of Rome's Christian underground wasn't just survival, it was adaptability. When the faith emerged from hiding, it brought its intimate, communal spirit into the open. The circular martyria honoring saints mirrored the catacombs' memorial niches, The confessio pits before major altars where pilgrims could touch relics echoed the practice of venerating tombs in tunnels. Even the basilica's long nave harkened back to catacomb galleries, now flooded with light instead of flickering oil lamps. Today, walking these sacred layers feels like reading a palimpsest of faith. Beneath the gilded mosaics of Santa Maria in Trastevere, excavation pits reveal the tavern that once occupied the site, its wine stains still visible on the floor. The Church of Santo Stefano Rotondo, with its circular design, unconsciously mimics the underground martyr shrines early Christians risked everything to visit. Rome's Christian identity wasn't built in a day, but stitch by stitch, from the hidden threads of catacomb prayers to the towering tapestries of Vatican splendor. Every time a tourist kneels in a grand basilica, they're touching the endpoint of a journey that began with whispered psalms in candlelit rooms, where belief turned bricks into holiness and darkness into light. The imperial fora stretched beneath Rome like a hidden crown, their marble halls and grand temples now lying fragmented under layers of history and Mussolini's sweeping boulevard. While the Roman Forum was the Republic's bustling heart, these imperial additions built by emperors from Caesar to Trajan were something far more calculated, open-air museums of power designed to awe citizens and rewrite history in stone. Walk along the Via dei Fori Imperiali today, and you're literally treading on propaganda, where every column and statue pedestal whispered loyalty to Rome's ruling dynasty. Take Trajan's Forum, a masterpiece of urban theater. Its centerpiece wasn't just a temple or courthouse, but a sprawling marketplace stacked like a shopping mall, proof that an emperor could provide both bread and circuses. Beneath the modern street level, archaeologists have traced the outlines of over 150 shops selling everything from silk to spices, their vaulted ceilings engineered to distribute weight so precisely that they still stand after 19 centuries. But the real stroke of genius, the entire complex was funded by gold looted from Dacia, modern-day Romania. Trajan's column, rising like a stone comic strip, twists with scenes of that very conquest, ensuring every shopper remembered who filled these stalls with goods. Augustus went even further in turning architecture into autobiography. His forum featured a temple to Mars Ultor Mars the Avenger, commemorating the defeat of Caesar's assassins at Philippi. The message was clear: Augustus wasn't just a ruler, he was a filial avenger, legitimizing his power through pietas. Excavations here have uncovered fragments of statues with intentionally defaced faces, likely those of disgraced successors like Nero, scrubbed from history by damnatio memoriae. Even the paving stones spoke. Colored marbles from Egypt and Greece weren't just decorative, they were physical proof of territories under Augustus' control. The most startling revelations come from Mussolini's own excavations in the 1930s. In his rush to link fascist Italy to imperial glory, workers sliced through medieval neighborhoods to expose the fora, often damaging the very ruins they sought to celebrate. Yet their haste accidentally preserved something extraordinary: layers of medieval lime kilns where Romans melted down ancient marble to make mortar. These kilns, now protected beneath glass walkways, reveal the flip side of imperial legacy: how easily grandeur could be recycled into something mundane. Modern technology peels back even deeper layers. Laser scans of the Forum of Nerva show where medieval builders cannibalized its columns for churches, leaving only a lone colonnaxe standing like a ghost. Beneath Caesar's Forum, ground-penetrating radar detected the remains of the original curia, where senators once debated its outline, now traced in LED lights for nighttime visitors. And in the shadow of Trajan's market, a collapsed corridor yielded a stash of intact oil lamps, each stamped with the maker's name, frozen in time as if waiting for a customer who never returned. What makes these buried forums so compelling isn't just their scale, but their honesty. The cracks in the facade are visible, hastily added statues of deified emperors, their features altered to suit new regimes, inscriptions recarved to erase political rivals, even the subtle shift in building materials as imperial coffers waxed and waned. This was power in raw form, not the sanitized versions in history books, but the chipped, reused, and sometimes desperate attempts to control the narrative. The next time you stroll past the Colosseum, look down. Those scattered stones underfoot aren't just rubble, they're pages from Rome's original playbook on how to rule the world. Rome's story isn't just one of conquest and glory, it's also written in ash and floodwater. The city we know today was shaped as much by disaster as by ambition, with each catastrophe leaving behind a hidden blueprint of survival. The Great Fire of 64 was no isolated tragedy. It was part of a cycle of destruction and reinvention that played out across centuries. Flames didn't just consume wooden tenements, they cleared the way for grander visions, like Nero's Domus Aurea, which rose from the charred remains of entire neighborhoods. But fire was only one force rewriting Rome's map. The Tiber River, lifeline of the city, could turn treacherous in moments, its floods swallowing streets whole. After the inundation of 69, archaeologists have found evidence of Romans doing something remarkable. Instead of clearing the mud, they simply built right over it, raising floor levels and entombing the past beneath new foundations. The layers tell the story of resilience. Beneath the Church of Santa Maria in Via Lotta, excavations revealed a 1st century warehouse filled with silt-covered amphorae, their contents still sealed by the same flood that forced merchants to abandon them. Nearby, a row of shops was found with their counters still stacked with coins and weights, as if the owners had stepped away moments before the waters rushed in. These weren't just accidents of preservation, they were snapshots of a city that refused to surrender to nature. Even earthquakes played their part. When tremors toppled the temple of Claudius on the Caelian hill, later builders didn't haul away the rubble. They incorporated its massive podium into the base of a new aqueduct, turning disaster into infrastructure. The most revealing disasters were often the quietest. A slow buildup of wind-blown dust from nearby farms could raise street levels inches per decade, gradually burying ground floors. In the Suburra district, archaeologists found homes where residents simply added new doors halfway up walls as the ground crept higher, turning first-story windows into basement vents over generations. This wasn't neglect, it was adaptation, a city evolving like tree rings, each stratum marking a response to crisis. What makes these layered responses so fascinating is their duality. Nero's fire led to wider streets and fire-resistant brick, but also to imperial overreach that fueled his downfall. Floods prompted better drainage systems, yet also created the perfect conditions for preserving artifacts we marvel at today. Even plague outbreaks left their mark, abandoned buildings hastily repurposed, like the warehouses near the Tiber that became mass graves during the Antonine Plague, now yielding poignant finds like amulets and medical tools. Modern Rome still grapples with this legacy. When digging the metro sea line, engineers hit a 2nd century neighborhood perfectly preserved under waterlogged soil, a time capsule from the very floods ancient Romans tried to forget. The real lesson isn't just that disasters shaped Rome, but that the city's genius lay in turning every catastrophe into a foundation for the next chapter. The Domus Aurea's buried halls, the flood-sealed workshops, even the earthquake-twisted columns reused in medieval churches, they all whisper the same truth. Rome's eternity wasn't forged in unbroken triumph, but in the stubborn act of rising, layer upon layer, from the ashes and the mud. Rome's underground holds more secrets than we've ever imagined, and the race to uncover them is accelerating with breakthroughs that sound like science fiction. Imagine lasers piercing through layers of earth to reveal entire neighborhoods without lifting a single shovel. LiDAR technology is already making this possible, mapping hidden chambers beneath modern streets with pinpoint accuracy. In the shadow of the Colosseum, researchers recently used ground-penetrating radar to detect an entire network of previously unknown corridors, possibly part of Nero's lost Domus Transitoria. These tools aren't just preserving history, they're rewriting it in real time, allowing archaeologists to explore fragile sites that would crumble under traditional excavation. Artificial intelligence is adding another layer to this revolution. Machine learning algorithms now sift through centuries of soil data, identifying patterns human eyes might miss. One project near the Circus Maximus used AI to analyze thousands of pottery fragments, reconstructing trade routes with startling precision. These systems can even predict where undiscovered structures might lie by cross-referencing ancient maps, geological surveys, and existing ruins. The goal isn't just finding new sites, it's understanding how they connect, turning isolated discoveries into a living map of Rome's subterranean past. Yet urban archaeology remains a delicate dance between progress and preservation. Every subway extension or sewer repair risks cutting through irreplaceable history. When workers digging Rome's Metro Sea Line in 2018 hit a second-century barracks, the project stalled for years as archaeologists meticulously documented the find. The solution: adjustable tunneling machines that can navigate around ruins and archaeological monitors embedded in construction crews to halt work at the first sign of ancient masonry. It's a model other cities are now adopting, proving that development and discovery don't have to be enemies. The next decade could unveil Rome's most tantalizing mysteries. Thermal imaging has detected voids beneath Trajan's Forum that might hold lost imperial archives, while sonar scans along the Tiber suggest sunken ships still laden with cargo. There's even talk of using muon tomography, a technique that maps dense structures using cosmic rays, to peer into sealed chambers beneath the Palatine Hill, where legend says Romulus was buried. Each breakthrough doesn't just add to our knowledge, it reshapes how we see the Eternal City, revealing a place that's less a static ruin than a living puzzle, constantly daring us to look deeper. The true challenge lies in balancing curiosity with care. As tools grow more powerful, so does the responsibility to protect what's found. Robotic probes can now explore flooded tunnels too dangerous for humans, while 3D printing replicates fragile frescoes so the originals can rest in controlled environments. Perhaps the greatest discovery awaiting us isn't a golden statue or forgotten temple, but a new way to honor the past without freezing it in time. Rome's underground isn't just a relic, it's a conversation across centuries, and we're only just beginning to listen. The forgotten cities beneath Rome's foundations are more than just ruins, they're a living chronicle of human ingenuity, where every layer whispers a story of resilience. Think about it, a first-century bakery buried under flood silt, its charred loaves still resting in the oven, or a Mithraic temple deliberately sealed beneath a Christian church, its star-painted ceiling hidden but never truly erased. These aren't isolated artifacts, they're fragments of a grand mosaic, each piece revealing how ordinary people and emperors alike adapted to fires, invasions, and the slow creep of time. The true marvel isn't just that Rome survived, but how it continually reinvented itself, turning disaster into opportunity, burial into preservation. Consider the Domus Aurea, Nero's buried palace, which Renaissance artists stumbled upon centuries later, sparking an artistic revolution. or the Cloaca Maxima, an engineering masterpiece that still functions today. Its brick-lined channels a testament to foresight. Even the humblest finds a child's doll dropped in a gutter. A tavern's graffiti complaining about cheap wine remind us that history isn't just about grand events, but the daily rhythms of life. These underground spaces are time capsules, safeguarding moments that official records often ignored. The laughter in a workshop, the whispers in a catacomb, the clatter of carts on buried streets. What's equally fascinating is how modern technology is unlocking these secrets without disturbing them. Ground-penetrating radar maps entire neighborhoods beneath our feet, while AI reconstructs shattered frescoes from fragments. Every scan, every excavation peels back another layer, challenging what we thought we knew. Did you know recent thermal imaging beneath Trajan's Forum hints at undiscovered chambers, possibly holding lost scrolls or imperial treasures? The more we uncover, the clearer it becomes. Rome's greatness wasn't just in its monuments, but in its ability to endure layer upon layer like a palimpsest of stone and memory. So the next time you walk through Rome or any ancient city, pause for a moment. Beneath your footsteps could lie a mosaic waiting to be seen again, a temple's altar silenced by time, or a merchant's stall frozen mid-transaction. These hidden worlds aren't relics of the past, they're mirrors reflecting our own capacity for reinvention. What stories might future generations uncover about us? Drop your thoughts below, and if you've enjoyed this journey through Rome's underground, hit subscribe. History's mysteries are far from finished, and who knows what we'll discover next.